I know we had a nice pose, and I know you all are trying to be one of the good model, and C-Star going to show us how to be modeling, yeah? And where is our Shivaji, the cameraman? Thank you, cameraman. Thank you. Please give us around to make us look good. Okay, so now let's go to the next one. Is Dr. Trisha Mahan. Dr. Trisha Mahan is going to be our next speaker. She is having a doctoral degree in the occupational therapy and over 25 years of experience. Dr. Trisha specializes in fostering learning through brain, body movement, and sensory intelligence training. Wonderful. As a core energy coach certified by the International Coaching Federation, she is dedicated to a personal and a professional growth, helping individuals navigate adversity with purpose and self-efficiency. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to extraordinary, accomplished Dr. Trisha Mahan.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I think I registered for this conference in like January. So it's been a very long time of anticipation and creation. And I'm just so blessed to be here, and having the conversations with you all has just been phenomenal. I'm full of goosebumps. My passion here is really, again, talking about adversity, because that's one thing that we all have in common, is that we experience adversity on all levels: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And how we navigate those adversities is really unique and individual to us all. But the skills needed to do so, we all can use those skills. Sometimes, and we were talking about this at lunch, we don't know what we don't know until we know it, right? And then once we know it, then we can take action steps and we can move forward to then create the life that is better healing and more fulfilling. So in this slide, my objective for today truly is just to be in flow. For these moments that I'm going to be speaking, just allow your spirit to be in flow. And at the end of my talk, I'm going to be referencing a river. So I wanted to visually impress this upon you, the peaceful tranquility of this river, and it will make sense more as I go through the talk. So in 2022, I turned 50, and I found myself curled up in the fetal position, sobbing because I just did not know what my life held for me, what really my purpose was. But also, I wrote a chapter for this book called Transforming Pain into Purpose. And also in 22, I was writing for an online magazine and called Brains. And after I picked myself up from sobbing in the fetal position, I decided to write an article about what it was that was really causing my spirit such anguish. And that was that I am a child of a parent who died when I was young. And it's not just that she died, it's that she was ill for so many years of my young life. So many years that they did not know what it was. My family was one to not talk about negative events or situations. So as a very intuitive child, I always knew something was going on. I always knew that there was something I was not being told. And on the other side of that, I was a doer. I was a hard worker. I was my mother's helper. I was a middle child, an older sister and a younger brother. And I was just always the worker bee. So as my mother got sicker and sicker, I ended up being her caretaker. My dad worked in law enforcement. He was always working. And the last thing I wanted was for my mother to be in pain. And so I would do the grocery shopping, and I would do the cleaning and get my dad's uniforms ready and raise, my brother, get him ready for school, and all of the things. I dedicated my life to my mom because she meant so much to me. And when she passed, and I was 19, when she passed, my world just got pulled from under me because my identity became that I was my mother's caregiver. I didn't know where to go from there. I didn't know what to do after she passed. And so having all of that in my mind that April of my milestone birthday, I wrote an article about transforming pain into purpose. Didn't even know about this book yet. I just wrote the article for the magazine. And what I did was I reflected on all of the negative mental narratives that I created about myself and my identity through the experience of losing my mother, but then the experience of becoming hyper-focused on work. Because I did not develop an identity as a young child. The only way I knew how to develop that identity was through work and school. And so I wrote the article, and then the publisher for this book reached out and was like, hey, we're writing a book on transforming pain into purpose. And I'm like, what is the synchronicity of that, right? The same title, are you kidding? So I was like, yes, I would love to write this chapter. And what I realized at the end of writing that chapter was that what I needed was to be who I needed when I was younger. I needed someone to tell me it was gonna be okay. I needed someone to tell me how to navigate this awful experience where I'm watching my mother deteriorate from cancer in my home as I'm cleaning her tumors, putting a diaper on her. I mean, things in my healthcare career that I have never seen other than with my mom. And I just wished that someone would come to me and save me from that pain. And I realized that no one is coming to save you. Who you have is who you are. And who you are is going to get you through your adverse situations. So, wrote the chapter, everything was going phenomenally well. In the end of 2022, I reunited myself with my sister, who had estranged herself from my family for multiple reasons too long to get into in this speech. However, I reinserted myself in her life because I had heard she wasn't doing so well. So what's the worst that could happen? She could either close the door in my face, tell me to get lost, but I showed up and we reunited. And it was very upsetting for sure because she had gotten stuck in fear, as we've talked about. And she could not navigate her life and reintegrate her life into society after choosing to quit her job and hopefully build her own business of being an artist and a writer, etc. So she came back into my world, and I went right back into that mode of taking care. I'm gonna fix it. I'm gonna fix it. Come on, Jackie, we can do this together. I'm your sister, we've been through so much together, let's go. And we started building her world, and her world started getting more positive. And then, long story short, early 2023, I come home on a beautiful Friday afternoon, ready to order some Grubhub at my house, and just enjoy the weekend. And I come home to 3 police officers standing on my doorstep to tell me that my sister had taken her life. And when that happened, that put me back, way back, into being that teenager that was losing her mother, that couldn't save her mother and couldn't save her sister. No matter how hard I worked, no matter how many degrees I had, nothing could bring back these people who were so important to me. And the pain inside my soul was turned inward into self-loathing. And that self-loathing took on a narrative in my head. I can't even, I'm not gonna give it the words here because this is about inspiration and moving forward and positivity. But struggling through reading my sister's journals where she would say, I'm so unworthy of having a relationship. I'm so unworthy of having the life I want. Therefore, suicide is my only answer. These are her journals. And when I read them, I was saying in my own mind, I could have written these. I have said these words to myself. What is the difference between my sister and me? And I should be with her where she is. And over the last year of trying to heal from my sister's passing, it has been one of the hardest, most challenging times of my life, where I have been in the basement of my soul that just does not want to exist on this earth anymore. Because why bother? If I'm not good enough to be a daughter, a sister who can save people, then I'm not good enough to be here. And who am I, imposter syndrome? Who am I to be here and be a doctor of occupational therapy? To be a life coach and try to talk to people and be like, hey, you can do this. Who am I? And I just stopped every aspect of my life. I had started a coaching business. Nope, can't do that, not good enough. I stayed in my day job and I just worked my life day to day trying to get through this loss. It caused me to revert back to deep feelings of guilt and shame for even existing. So, when I think of adversity, and those are just a few stories of the depth of my own journey, but I think about adversity and I'm like, adversity is not just about me. It's not, my story is about me, but the pain of navigating life is not just about me. And so I think about the pandemic and what the pandemic has done to all people. And we were just talking about this at lunch. Is there anyone on this planet that can say that the pandemic did not impact them in any negative way? Very interesting question. I haven't heard anyone say it hasn't. I know for me, being a single woman, living alone, that the pandemic, again, was another experience that reflected to me everything I believed about how unworthy I was. Because my job turned into being a hands-on, physical, interpersonal worker with children and families, to now trying to give therapy over a computer screen. Not only that, but not being someone who relies on technology so much because I believe in the power of physical engagement. Seeing my face on that screen during the pandemic when we had to use Google Meet or Zoom, then reflected back to me looking at my face while I am trying to communicate with someone and feeling how long I have never had a healthy self-esteem about who I am or what I look like. I was now forced to look at my face on that screen and have to do the job that I've done for 25 years while feeling so incompetent and inefficient in a system that changed overnight. How do you keep yourself going when you feel that everything you've tried to build is just crumbled under your feet? And so I look at the world now as we live in a world of hyper change. In occupational therapy, there is a therapist, Jim Hinojosa, who talks about hyper change. And it is about rapid, dramatic, complex, and unpredictable changes that happen in the world and in your life. And he published information about this back in 2007. So if that was hyper change, what is the pandemic and what it has now done to our society? And this can mean any aspect of your life: emotional adversity, physical adversity, your personal experiences, as we've heard so many. This change surrounds us every day. So then I pull myself up by the bootstraps and I'm like, okay, Trish, with the wisdom and the knowledge that you have gained going to school, why did you go to school so much? Like, why have so many degrees unless you're going to use them, right? Information is universal. Knowledge and wisdom is how you apply it. And so what I do is I think about everything in life being on a continuum. Everything is on a spectrum. We have good, we have bad, we have dark, we have light, right? Everything has an equal and an opposite. And so when I think about this continuum, it does help shape how I think about what action steps I'm going to take in my life. So if you look toward the left of the scale, you'll see more of like the negative aspects, right? And I say dis-ease, not disease, because dis-ease just means, right, feeling a state of discomfort or malalignment with what it is you want. Negative energy, maybe heavier energy, right? And then to the right, we have the opposite of that, which is the well-being, wellness, purpose, thriving, that higher, lighter energy, higher vibration that we all want to connect to. But we are never in either side all the time. If you see that little triangle in the middle, that little triangle not only is the axis for this lever continuum, but that little triangle is the symbol for change. So in medical notes, when we write documentation, if we write a patient has changed their status, we write that little triangle as meaning change. So I find that very symbolic as it being the pivotal point on a continuum. And so in the middle, where that triangle is, we see health, participation, and surviving. These are just states of being, in my view, that are neutral, right? They are neutral, and we can either move to the left and go deeper into the negative state of emotion or feeling or circumstance, or we can move to the right and go more toward that higher level. So keep that picture in your mind. I also consider this triangle as being a reference of resilience, because resilience is really being able to adapt, modify, compensate, accommodate, or any word you want to use, because when we talk about words and the importance of words, they really do make a difference. And so resilience prepares us to access our resources, right? Because it's not until we're feeling like, how do I want to get through this? How am I going to get through this? That we then start to think about what resources do we need to help ourselves, both internally and externally. And the spiritual aspect of resilience, which is hope. Without hope, we can't move forward, because the opposite of hope is what? Despair, right? So if you put them on either end, where do you want to be? Hopeful or sitting in the area of despair, feeling that there is no opportunity for you to make growth, to succeed, to move forward? And so again, in my mind, it's not enough just to say you're resilient. Some people do not like to be called resilient, because they're like, yeah, I'm resilient, I'm still here, I, made it through all these events, but for what? That's not really resilient, that's just surviving what you went through. Resilience is using your skills to rise above the challenges that we have experienced. And as an occupational therapist, when I work with my clients, children, family, young adults, framing movement and action steps into skills that we can build takes away the self-defeating narratives that sometimes we develop that then engages our self-esteem. Well, I can't do this. I'm not good at that. Well, you're only not good until you know what you need to know to then work on. So for example, our mental mechanics, right? Cognitive functioning, thinking about organizing our lives, planning what it is we want to do to move forward, problem solving, the skills that are required to help us move past what it is that has us stuck in the first place. Emotional resilience, creating a language. And when you talked about using words and how important words are, that hit my spirit, because I can say I am full of rage at what is happening in our political system in the United States today, right? And what energy does that give you on the left side of that spectrum? If I change that word and I can say, I'm angry. I'm angry at how things are unfolding. And from anger, I can say, you know what? I'm really kind of frustrated at the way this situation worked out or is unfolding. To, you know what? I can tolerate this. I can tolerate this because I have the resilience to make choices for myself, right? And then I can go from I tolerate this to, okay, I accept that what is on the outside of me is what it is because I have no control. Right? And then I come back inside like, okay, now that I've accepted, now where can I go? I can go to, how can I create change? How can I flourish? How can I feel content with who I am and my choices despite what is going on outside of me? And then we have spiritual resilience, which is our values and our beliefs and our connections to others. Right? So we think that our beliefs are true, capital T, right? However we were raised, whatever beliefs we have, we believe are true. The truth. But they're only true for us because that is how we were raised, or because of the environment that we were a part of. But those beliefs can be changed if you want to change them. And there is that, you can put beliefs on that continuum, right? What are your positive beliefs? What are beliefs that don't serve you anymore? And where in that continuum can you make change? And so this model that I'm going to show you right now is a theoretical model of practice in occupational therapy. And it's called the KAWA model. And KAWA means river in Japanese. And the reason that a Japanese occupational therapist and his students created this model was because they felt that our Western models of practice did not address or incorporate the intricacies of culture and the dynamics of how culture impacts every aspect of our life, fluidly, consistently. And so they developed this model. And it's a visual, and I use it whenever I'm struggling. Because sometimes to put where we are, our struggles, and even our successes into something visual and tangible that we can then work with makes it seem a little bit easier than keeping it all in our heads and our hearts. And so I want you to think about the river as your flow, as your energy, your life. You can see how the water would represent this kind of energy, right? And where does a river start? It starts at the very top of a mountain. And then it flows down the mountain and it releases into the sea. From where the river starts to where the river flows into the sea is your life's journey. And if you were to imagine what your life journey would look like as a metaphor of a river, what would it look like? Would it be calm and smooth waters? Would it be a raging rapid? What would it be? Probably you would have a little bit of everything, right? If we took a cross section of that river, that could be, oh, that cross section, that was when my mother died. That cross section has a lot of problems in it, right? But then another cross section could be like, hey, this is when I got my doctoral degree, and that was like one of the most amazing moments of my life because it proved I was smart enough. Whatever that is, Your cross sections will be unique to you. But inside the river are different elements. So where the water flows, it flows where? On the walls and the floor of that river. And the walls and the floor of the river represent your physical environments and your social structures that contribute to your journey at any given moment. And that structure can be smooth and allow for the water to just flow beautifully through, or it can be full of rocks and garbage and other obstacles that get in your way, that impede the flow of your water, of your river. But again, there's always an opposite, right? So if the rocks are your problems, which could be financial problems, relationship problems, any problem you have, you could write on a rock and say, yes, this is my problem. But on the other side of that is the driftwood. And driftwood will float in a river, right? So if the driftwood is floating in the river, if someone took you and plopped you in the middle of a river, right, and you're not a good swimmer, what are you gonna reach to hold on to? Are you gonna reach and hold on to a rock that's gonna sink you to the bottom with your problems? Or are you gonna reach for the driftwood and float for a moment, plan, think about what you need to do? The driftwood represents your strengths, your assets, your values, the parts of you that you can rely on. Maybe say it's your sense of humor. Maybe it's your spirituality. Maybe it is the way you make interpersonal connections. Whatever that is, we use that to help us in our flow. And yet the beauty of all of this symbolism of the river is that no matter how many rocks you have in your life, even if the rocks are jammed up with the driftwood and it's just making your water obstructed, the beauty of water is that it pretty much can seep through anything, right? It's like a homeowner's worst nightmare because it can seep through concrete. It can seep through the earth. The beauty of that is that there is always space for that water to flow through. Your energy can always flow through the smallest of spaces with that grain of hope that you have to make your rocks smaller, to make your flow smoother, and to help you float down the river with more purpose, execution, presence. And this is what we call post-traumatic growth. When we grow psychologically, emotionally, spiritually further than where we were before those traumas occurred or those adversities occurred, that is post-traumatic growth, rising above and beyond. So here's what I learned. I learned to acknowledge and accept what is and move forward. Until we can acknowledge what is in front of us without giving it an emotional narrative or a negative cognitive narrative, just what is. Don't judge it, just what is it? Then we can move forward. I learned to trade judgment for curiosity. Instead of blaming the world or blaming myself, as I have a tendency to do, I just learned to be more curious. How can I show up different? What can I learn that's going to change who I am when I stand in the moment of adversity? Self-compassion is necessary to heal. Space and grace for yourself. Being okay to be frustrated in the moment. Being okay to be in that fetal position at 50 years old, wondering where my life is going. It's okay, Trish. Go ahead, cry it out. Crying is cleansing. Squeeze your soul and get those hot, hot tears out. And then build yourself back up and move forward. And that inner power is in the moment. Because the one thing we always have is the moment. Right now we have a moment, I love you all. And now is another moment, I love you all, right? And another moment. And so if in that moment I'm like, you know what, Trish, you messed up again, and here come those negative narratives again. No, wait, stop, moment. choice. Who are you in this moment? Who do you want to be in this moment? How are you going to get there? I don't want to do that. Screw that. I don't know. Oh, here's the next moment. Are you going to do it now? Yes, I'm going to do it now. And I am going to show up in all of my power. And I'm going to stand here in Paris. Who knew? Who could ever do that? And speak about some of the darkest days of my life, but also how I've been able to rise above, to bring myself and get myself the confidence to stand here and share with all of you. And I have learned how to live in my purpose, and that I am worthy to live in my purpose. And that by doing that, I then honor my mother, I honor my sister, I help people who feel and experience what they were going through to then rise above their own challenges, or at least know that there is hope to do so. So I believe in creating value wherever you go, whoever you meet. Create value in your life, make a positive impact, pursue your goals with passion, and improve confidence with action. Confidence does not come by sitting and wishing for it. It comes by taking the smallest of action steps. And so now I say proudly here that what made me feel lost for so many years now makes me feel found and seen and proud. And I am so thankful to be here with all of you and hear your journeys. And thank you for the space and grace to give me the time to share mine. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much. Thank you.